Hi, this is Julie with Beadaholique, and in this video I want to show you how to make the wrapped tassel bracelet kit, which is an exclusive kit from Beadaholique. I have a couple different color variations that you can see here. I'm going to pull one out so you can see the detail. It's finished off with a very nice tassel, a magnetic clasp, and then what's extra nice about this is it can be a wrapped bracelet or you can wear it as a necklace, and it's got these really pretty bar beads in between the colored seed beads. When you purchase this kit, you're going to get all the supplies you need to make this bracelet. In terms of findings, you're going to get several different things for this kit. You're going to get an open jump ring, a magnetic clasp, 2 crimp tubes, and 2 crimp covers. You'll notice the crimp tubes are silver and the crimp covers are gold, so the covers are going to make it so that all your findings match. You're going to get bar beads, a nice assortment of them, as well as a colored seed bead, 2 lengths of pre-cut beading wire that are 30 inches long each, and a whole spool of pearl cotton to match the color of your seed bead. What's nice about this is you're going to be able to make a lot of extra tassels to use with other projects with all the leftover cotton. Now, tools don't come with the kit itself, it's just the supplies, but the tools that are needed are very common tools for jewelry making, ones that you probably already have, like just a standard pair of scissors, a pair of cutters, a standard crimping plier, and a couple pairs of chain nose pliers, or if you have a round nose and a chain nose, whatever you can use to open up that jump ring. And then you'll just need a ruler. So let's start to actually make this kit, and I'm going to put the ruler aside for now and we'll bring it back later. So begin by opening up your packets of beading wire and stretching them out. Just use your fingers if they're a little bit tangled. You don't want to pull too tightly on them, but you just want to loosely undo them. So this is a stringing project in that we're using the beading wire with beads and crimp tubes, but we're actually going to be stringing both wires at the same time. So to start, what we're going to do is we're going to anchor the wires together. So I've lined up the ends of the beading wire, and I'm going to thread them through a crimp tube. Now I'm going to separate out my clasp. So I just have 1/2 of the magnetic clasp. I'm going to thread both ends of the beading wire through the little loop on the clasp. And I'm going to have about an inch or so on the end there. I don't need too much. I just need enough to loop it back around and down through that crimp tube. And again, I want both beading wires to go into the crimp tube. Now, if you're having troubles getting both to go in, it helps to just hold them right near their tips and then push them through so they come out the other end. So we've got 4 wires now. So we've got the 2 ends and then the 2 long strands. And we're going to scoot that crimp tube up towards the clasp. We don't need it to be super tight up there. We want a little bit of room so that clasp can move around. And then we're going to take our crimping pliers. If you're not familiar with crimping pliers, I'm going to hold them against the white here so you can see that it has 2 notches. One is crescent shaped like a bean and another is more oval shape. We're going to start by squishing the crimp tube in the one closest to the handle, which is crescent shape. And then we're going to go ahead and make the crimp tube nice and neat and tidy with the oval one. So here we go. So we're going to put it in that back notch. This can be a little challenging because you can see the magnetic clasp is actually sticking to the crimping pliers. Just be patient with it. And we want it to go into that back section. Okay. So while I'm holding it, so you can see it's resting in there, I'm going to try to scoot it a little closer just so that it's nice and snug but not too tight. And squeeze. Okay. So what we did is we now made the crimp tube into that crescent shape. Now we're going to take our pliers and we're going to line it up so that we squish that crescent together, so we're folding it over. So I'm holding it in there, so it's standing upright, and I'm just going to squish. And I'm pressing pretty hard because I want that to be really secure. That's what's going to keep our beads on the strands. So we made it a nice fold over. We can go ahead and set this down for a minute because I want to take the seed beads out of the tube and lay a bunch on the table to work with. We're going to start by stringing one gold bar. You can see that these have 2 holes, which is perfect for this double stringing method. And what I want you to do is first, before you put any bar bead on here, separate out your strands because you don't want these to be all tangled down at the end. What would happen is you'd put your bar on and then you'd have to take it back off to untangle your strands. So go ahead and just make sure that these are separated out. And just to get started, go ahead and take one bar bead and go through one hole, slide it down, make sure it goes through both the strands that are sticking out that end, so the little tail end one and then the long one, and then grab this other strand and feed it through that second hole. Okay, we want to do that for that other end as well. Some people like to trim the end of their beading wire right after the crimp tube. You can do that as well. I find it's a little bit more secure to do it this way. Just have a little bit more length there, but either way works fine. So we're going to go ahead and pull that bar down. So that's a really nice separator for our 2 strands. Now to do the other strands, we're going to go ahead, find the ends of our wire, and they should be the same length, and we're going to put a seed bead on each of them, followed by a bar bead, followed by a seed bead, again 1 on each strand, and I'm going to scoot these guys down. Okay, so again, just in the beginning here, I want to make sure they go through both of the strands on each end. Seems like a little bit of extra work, I know, but I like to be extra cautious. Okay, scoot that bar bead down. And then the seed beads. And those are nice and secure. You can see how we're starting to have our pattern materialize here. We picked up at the other end of our magnetic clasp. These magnetic clasps will roll around. They like to stick to everything. All right, we're going to string a few more. Again, go to the end of your beading wires. You want to make sure that you keep them straight, so you don't want them crisscrossing. And then onto the end. Let's see, we left off with seed beads, so now we're going to add a bar bead. Followed by a seed bead on each, followed by another bar bead, and another seed bead, and you probably get the idea of what we're doing at this point. Okay, I'm going to add one more bar bead. I'm going to scoot these down. I'm going to trim the ends so that I don't have to do the double wire thing at the base because I want that to be done with. I'm going to just scoot these down. And with these guys, what I'm going to do is I'm not going to worry about the wire ends. I just want them to go flat. Scoot them all the way down, and now I'm just going to trim those wire ends right up by the bead. Okay, they're done. And now I'm going to continue stringing until I have 22 inches Or what you can also do is you can string and then measure it against your own wrist to see how long you want it to be. So go ahead and wrap it around your wrist as you're actually doing the beading. So I'm just going to continue with this pattern of bar bead, 2 seed beads, bar bead, 2 seed beads, on and on until I have 22 inches done. And then what I will do is I'll come back and I'll show you how to finish the other side and also how to make the tassel. As you can see here, we've got quite a bit of the beading done. This took me about a half an hour just to give you some idea of the time frame. I'm going to add a few more to the end here just to make it a little bit longer. And then we're going to go ahead and finish off this end the same way we did the other one. So I left off with a bar. Again, I'm just going to add a seed bead to each strand, a bar, a seed bead, and you can decide if you want to end with a seed bead or a bar. It doesn't really matter. I'm going to end with a seed bead on this one just to show you how to do it with something a little different than what we started with. So here we go. Now we're going to go ahead, take our strands together this time, put on that last crimp tube, make sure that both of the wires go through the tube, and then also the other half of your magnetic clasp. And just like you saw in the beginning of the video, we are going to have it where the pliers are going to stick to this a little bit, but that's okay. Okay, so we're going to feed both ends. So we've got the crimp tube, we've got the loop from the magnetic clasp. We're wrapping our wires back around and going down through that crimp tube again, and having them come out. So you can see there's those two ends. So you want to pull this down. Before you pull it too tight, what I actually want you to do is I want you to just take these wires and string one down the inside of a few beads. Again, we're just stringing it through a few of the adjacent beads to the actual crimp tube, just so it's a little bit more secure. Same thing with the other side. There we go. And just pull it. So now at this point, we want to lay out our piece. Make sure all the beads are nice and tight. There's no big gaps. And then start pulling these wires down very gently and very slowly. You can see what's happening. Okay, keep pulling. Now you don't want it to be too tight because you want this to be nice and flexible when it's done. So you don't want it to be too stiff, but I'm going to lay it here on the white so you can see what's happening. There we go. And I'm comfortable with that tension. I like that. I like it so I can still move it. I'm ready to crimp my crimp tube. Pull it just a little bit more. I want that loop a little smaller up towards the clasp. There we go. So I'm just going to scoot it with my fingers. There we go. And remember, we have that crimp bead cover, which is going to take up a little space too. There we go. So I'm going to take my crimping pliers. Again, they are going to stick a little. We want it to be into that top notch. I'm going to try a little something here that might help. I'm going to secure that magnetic clasp together so I can actually hold this one out, and that is actually very helpful. So I've got it in that notch that's closest to the handles, and right now I'm going to pull these wires down a little bit more because I got a little bit loose when I was doing that. I'm going to crimp it. So I'm going ahead and squeezing, so I'm making that little crescent shape. And then I'm going to go ahead and sandwich it and fold it over with the notch that's furthest away from the handle. So I'm just grabbing it right in there and squeezing. And that is now finished off and very secure. Before I go any further, I'm going to take my chain nose pliers, pick up that other crimp bead cover, go ahead, put it over the crimp tube. And let me get my fingers out of the way so you can see what I'm doing. Squeeze it shut so it makes it like a nice bead on the end there. Now I'll take my cutters and trim off my tails. And we have finished the actual bracelet itself. All we have to do now is add the tassel, and we have to make the tassel first. So this is pearl cotton. It's very soft, very flexible, and we want to make a tassel out of it. And we're going to do that using the pearl cotton, a pair of scissors, and an open jump ring. So let me go ahead and scoot all these other pieces aside. And we are going to want to cut about 5 feet of the pearl cotton. And you can just rough it. It doesn't have to be exact. So that's about 2, 3, 4, 5. You get a lot of this in your kit, and you have all this left over now. So to make a tassel, we're going to take the pearl cotton, and I'm holding it with my thumb right here to anchor it. We're going to wrap it around our hand. Very simple to do. You're going to find you're going to want to add tassels to everything after you learn how to do this. Okay, I'm just wrapping and wrapping. If you find you want a thicker tassel, cut more. If you want a thinner tassel, cut less. So I've just made a nice loop. I'm going to slide it off of my hand, and I'm going to flatten it. I'm going to take this end, so that was just the loop, take that end, and I'm going to feed it through my jump ring. I want to try to get all of it through, so I'm just going to twist it a little bit. There we go. So that jump ring is now going to go and slide down to the middle. And I'm going to set this down for just a moment. I'm going to cut another length of the pearl cotton, about 1 foot. So now when I fold this over, just like that, I am going to now take this other length, wrap it around the top a few times, and now just tie a knot with my 2 ends. A little tricky, so you might wish you had a 3rd hand, but it works. Okay, pull that tight, and now we're going to knot it a couple more times, just so that it's really nice and secure. So what I like to do is at this point, instead of trimming it really close, I like to just make my ends be part of the tassel itself. Okay. So now you can go ahead and trim your tassel to the desired length. You can make it really short, you can make it long, whatever you want to do. I'm going to first cut these loops. And I like to just pull it down. Okay, and now I'm going to trim it. And there I have a tassel. So we need to attach the tassel to the bracelet. So you could do this at several spots. You can do it on the loop to the magnetic clasp, but if you do it there, it might get in the way when you're trying to open and close it. So I'm going to attach it right here where there's that little gap of the beading wire. To do so, this is an open jump ring, so we need to open it. We're going to take one of our chain nose pliers and put it on the right side of that slit for the open loop. We're going to take our other chain nose plier, put it on the other side. We're just going to open it slightly. We don't have to open it too wide. Oops. Let's go ahead. A little bit wider than that, because I don't want that cotton top pulling off. So I'm going to hold my bracelet, loop it into that gap of the beading wire, there we go, and now just close it and make sure you have it closed well, that it's lining up. And there we are done. So we have made our wrapped tassel bracelet, and I can loop this around so you can see what the finished piece looks like. And just a reminder, it does come in these other colors as well. We've got a turquoise, a pink, a purple, and a black. And all of these are available along with many other exclusive kits at Beadaholique.